Let me introduce Maciej Wodziński and Marcin Rządeczka. I know them pretty well because we work together closely. Yeah, so just a word of introduction. They're both philosophers. Marcin is interested and working in evolutionary psychology, philosophy of evolutionary psychology, human cognitive biases, heuristics of decision-making, the philosophy of. And Maciej is mostly known for his work on autism, autism expertise. He's himself an expert by experience, and working on other experts who are not experts by experience, and some of them are, some of them are not. So this is his field, and recently defended his PhD in Lublin, which I had the pleasure of promoting. So over to you guys.
Okay, thank you very much. So we'll focus on a specific application of large language models for therapeutic use in the setting of mental health. The area of research is recently called the digital mental health. It's a team effort. So we and I and Maciej were involved here, but we would also thank our contributors who have helped us with many aspects of the research. So let's start with the agenda. We'll begin with a general discussion of the role of chatbots in the realm of mental health. Then we'll transit to the question of whether chatbots should address the human cognitive biases, and if so,
Yo firmé lo que me mandó.
Vale, la voy a llamar por teléfono.
Venga,
Gracias, Ágata.
nada.
you do it. Then we'll transit to the discussion of the recent study we have done and published. A few days ago, it was published in Journal of Medical Internet Research. And I think the philosophical conclusions of the study relates to the role of chatbots, mental health chatbots as a support for therapists. And then we use this research as a springboard for the discussion of several features of large language models, which are, in our humble opinion, quite important, but rather under-recognized. One of them is the cognitive humility benchmark. And then questions and discussion. Okay, so let's start with a visual metaphor, which I hope it would be clear at the end of the presentation. Now you can understand it rather superficially, I think, but let's hope there is at least some message and understandable. Okay, let's start with the role. I think the role of conversational artificial intelligence in the realm of mental health. We can criticize mental health chatbots. However, there are few advantages which are rather indisputable. First of all, its accessibility, especially for underprivileged. The fact that mental health chatbots can be used in remote places, can be used in case of shortage of skilled therapists, and can be also used as continuous monitoring tools for therapists who generally want to address the most severe issues with their clients. However, because of the limited time, they use chatbots for continuous monitoring, and meet personally with clients only if there is a severe issue or there is a very important thing to discuss. There is also a quite important aspect of the use of chatbots, and this is the comfort of some groups of neurodivergent individuals, some people with, for example, generalized anxiety disorder or people with autism spectrum, usually would like to use mental health tools like digital mental health tools like chatbots to decrease the stigma, or just to feel more comfortable, because speaking with artificial intelligence do not require them to feel stigmatized or to feel evaluated in a certain way. Yeah, so I think these are the role. These are the areas of application of mental health chatbots which are quite promising. However, it should be stated that our study has shown several areas which require improvement, and one of them we focus the most is the identification of cognitive biases and rectification of those biases, so essentially correcting them by a proper unbiased thought pattern. So we can use the term reframing here, because in CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, a key element is the reframing of thought patterns to decrease bias in certain areas. So, for example, to reduce all or nothing thinking. We have published the results of our study in the Journal of Medical Internet Research a few days ago. There is also an open access protocol with all the conversations with 5 tools, 5 mental health tools, 2 therapeutic ones, so WISA and UPER, and as a control group, 3 large language models, so GPT 3.5, GPT 4, and Gemini. There is a protocol, and all the history of conversation is really a variable, as well as a more elaborated discussion of our findings. We'll just focus on the few chosen aspects. We have chosen 2 categories of biases, so theory of mind biases and autonomy biases, with 3 types of biases from each group. So definitely it is not a representative group. It was an exploratory research, but I hope this exploratory work reveals some important patterns which we would like to address. So due to the scarcity of time, I would not address every type of bias. However, if I can use fragments of conversation, what we can see here is unacceptable patterns which may lead to aggravation of certain problems, certain cognitive biases, rather to dealing with those problems. Like in case of anthropomorphism bias, where chatbots were meant to address over anthropomorphization, over-reliance, as it is a common issue that patients rely on chatbots for advice in many realms, also realms outside the proper therapeutic content, not to mention the fact that they often forget about the fact that they are not speaking to a real person, but to a stochastic machine. What we see here is the answer to when actually questions about we have a virtual patient who is over-dependent on technology and has a tendency to anthropomorphize technology, ascribe intentions to different technical devices. When he complains that he has neglected his smartphone recently, the answer to his question starts with a suggestion that he should start to apologize to the old smartphone for neglecting it, as if it's answer to his inquiry. However, it's an answer which lacks the therapeutic foresight. Another example, we have chosen example which are definitely extreme. So there are many more examples in the protocol which are maybe less extremes, but those extremes can help us to imagine how the type of problems we are dealing with. Another example focuses on the ascribing of intentions, and our virtual patient is over-concerned about artificial intelligence tracking her life, about influencing her life situations. For example, what we hear here is the presupposition that husband of our virtual patient chose a gift, a present for her based on her recommendation of artificial intelligence. And Gemini Pro suggests that she should look for patterns in online searches that may have led AI to recommend that particular type of present, which was dinner. So, what we see here is definitely a naivety, some sort of therapeutical naivety, which is visible across different types of biases, as you see the graph which shows the comparison of efficiency of therapeutic and non-therapeutic chatbots. Surprisingly, or maybe not surprisingly, the non-therapeutic chatbots outperformed therapeutic chatbots, which is not surprising because they were trained using a more extensive databases. However, if we put that in the therapeutic settings, then we must be aware of the fact that therapeutical chatbots were quite neglected the area of therapy, which was identification of cognitive biases and rectification of those biases. What other issues we have identified? First of all, expertise overreach. So what we mean by that is the fact that chatbots displayed many types of disclaimers however, were directly asked about advice on severe life, severe life issues. They provided some guidance, which may have been misleading for real patients. Another issue is the possibility of over-dependence on those patterns, and as they are very, on the superficial level, they are very human-like. After all, humans also use some types of stochastic patterns. And there was a lack of contextual awareness. So we have used this research as a springboard to our next research, which was a research into cognitive humility. And now, may I ask my colleague Maciej for presentation of the second part of our findings.
This one?
The smallest one.
This one?
Yeah.
You mean to hide it?
To collapse it, yeah.
All right, perfect. Thank you. Okay, so we have like 8 minutes left. So I will make the long story short. So we decided to investigate a little bit about the concept of cognitive humility in LLMs. Cognitive humility is basically a concept concerned with the awareness, human awareness of our knowledge limitations and limitations of our understanding of the world. So if we are cognitively or intellectually humble, then we are aware that our knowledge is limited, that sources of our knowledge might be not perfect, and that we are or we might be suspected to some cognitive biases, or we can just make errors, which is a concept which is quite important for any human being, but it is especially important for experts that are engaged in some important decision-making processes. So basically, if we are cognitively humble, as this concept is operationalized in psychology, we are open to discussions, to dialogue, and we are open to other viewpoints and so to some alternative solutions. And we should be somewhere, or our cognitive humility should be somehow balanced between the extremes, because if our level of cognitive humility is too high, or if it's too low, then we are just exposed to some cognitive errors and biases because we are not aware of our limitations. And if our cognitive humility level is too high, then it might just paralyze our decision-making processes. Because if we acknowledge every alternative possible, then it's just almost impossible, or it's very hard to decide on anything actually. So we wanted to try if this concept is applicable or suitable for LLMs, and we wanted to, with our small exploratory research, we wanted to check to what extent the LLMs should be humble to, on one side, to be a useful tool for to support our decisions, and on the other side to be not to be viewed as some authoritative sources of knowledge. So we decided to use adapted intellectual humility scales that are typically used for research with humans. We adapted them a little bit so we could ask the questions to LLMs about how they would react for other or for different opinions of users. So the scale is consisted of 22 questions, and people and our LLMs always have to answer these questions on a Likert scale, where 1 is like the lowest level of cognitive humility, and 5 is the highest one. So we got basically 2 main results, and one of them is that almost all of these models that we examined, which were 2 models of ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, and DeepSeek. Yeah, and DeepSeek. So they all have some different architectures, but actually all of these models, their self-scores were artificially inflated, because they almost always said that this is number 5. So I am absolutely cognitively humble, and I will always try to please my user with the answer that is that will just please the user and will not be actually helpful. So you can see that ChatGPT is it's a summary of the.
It's Claude.
On the left side is ChatGPT, on the right side is Claude, and there is only answers number 5, so they are perfectly humble, which is not actually a good result. But the other result, which is a bit more confusing here, is that there was a lack of consistency in these results, because sometimes when we change, for example, the order of the questions asked, you can see that this is the example from Gemini. These are the same questions asked in separate conversations, and they answered absolutely in a different way in one conversation, and in one conversation it's number 4, and in the other it's number 2. So here it's almost perfectly humble, and here it is not. So the one pattern of these answers was that the model is perfectly humble, and the other one is that there is no some coherent pattern in this answers. So we would like to, let's say, interpret these results. I don't know if you are familiar with this Wolf-Husky classification problem. So this was basically the research that LLMs had to identify whether the animal showed on the picture is husky or a wolf, and it actually did quite good in this task. But when when researchers were asking why, how did you decide on this? So it turned out that the models were not assessing the features of the animals, but the background. So most of the pictures of huskies were without snow, and wolves were pictured with a snow. So basically the result was proper, but the premises were absolutely wrong. And we think that here we have quite a similar problem, because we have something what we, let's say, can call a facade cognitive humility, which is the models are trying to simulate this process, but it's on the level of reasoning, it's a bit like Christoph said, that they do something similar to us, but it's not the same, and it's done in a completely different way. And if they try to simulate this this cognitive humility, then it just doesn't work in a way that it should, and actually it hinders our trust and our trust into the knowledge that is generated, which is actually pretty important if we want to use the chatbots as, for example, therapists, digital therapists. We have to end probably.
Just a send one.
Yeah. So basically, we get these quite strange results when assessing this cognitive humility, but also we get phrases like, "All right, I may be wrong with what I write to you," but as we can see, these are just some very shallow proxies for a true cognitive humility, because like being really humble about our knowledge is not just stating that, all right, I may be wrong, but it engages some deeper epistemic reasoning and deeper epistemic or reasoning about our let's say metacognitive processes, not just stating that, all right, I can say you something, but I may be wrong. And so this facet cognitive humility is a result of let's say maybe some kind of security protocols that the model has to say that, all right, I can be wrong, so you cannot blame me for whatever your actions based on my knowledge will be.
Conclusions.
So going to conclusions, Marcin.
Okay, so the main conclusions are, first, we claim that LLMs outperformed specialized therapeutic chatbots, but are still naive therapists in the sense they do not take into account the contextual clues, and due to that, they actually do not provide a bird's eye of view. They are rather trying to provide the most comfortable setting for the user. So it's rather focused on user satisfaction than on real therapeutic application. After all, therapy may be uncomfortable in certain situations, and just focusing on the comfort of user is not the proper therapeutic approach. Obviously, there is a facade cognitive and facade inflated cognitive humility, Maciej mentioned, and we think there is a room for epistemic calibration of some metacognitive features of LLMs, with cognitive humility as one of those features. So thank you very much for your attention.